Good morning everyone, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing some more work on my spring, celebrate the seasons with flowers and other random bits and pieces. So what did I do in the last week? I finished stitching down underneath the yellow and I had a little gap left and I stopped and I had a little play with a weaving where I put the stitches up and down and then I wove a second thread through and I really enjoyed it, liked the look of it. So I came down here looking for bigger areas like the size of my thumbnail spots where I can do it again. So this one is, well, they're all wool, Appleton wool. This one I used a wool that I've made a granny squares and that out of, a blanket. So it's probably a 5-ply or 6-ply. Then I went back to the pink. In that darker pink area is crochet cotton. Just some of this. I really like the effect that gave me. In here is also some crochet cotton, but this time I matched it to the colour of the wool, so it's a lot more subtle. It's not as obvious as this pink one. So there's 3 examples just there of what you can do. Then in amongst it all, I changed the angle. I sort of made it look sort of different by angles. So this one here is yet to have something through, so I thought I'd do that one with you. You can see how I've just stitched up and down, up and down, up and down to fill it in right between the leaf and those 2 petals. So now it's a case of finding something to weave through. So what I might do, then we'll head over to this area because I did a little bit of work there. So let me grab a needle. Really easy to use and quite good at the weaving is the tapestry needle, but it does have a blunt end. So if you've got a lot of layers, it can be a bit tricky to push it through. It did work because I needed to pull it out for this thick wool here, and it did work. And then while I still had it in my hand, I did that with it. So, and then I went back to my normal needle there. The good thing about tapestry needle is it doesn't split the wool that you've used to create the upward stitches. I've seen this a lot in old embroidery books, and I've never really tried it. I did try it with Anne Brooks's 52 tags. One of the prompts one week was weaving, so we laid down the waft strip, so weft and waft. Weft to white is one of them, is how I used to remember it. So I'm just going to, but with Anne's, she made us use different types of threads, like textures and things, that made it quite interesting. So I might just remove my glasses so I can really see, because I want to try and make it so that I only pick up 2 of the threads. And that'll help keep it a little even. There we go. It's as simple as that. This stitch is not hard. Now you can turn around and come back, or you can go through your fabric and then come back up where you want it. You might need to do that if your little space that you're doing this in is a little bit uneven as in shape. It's a lot easier when it's a square or a rectangle, as you can imagine. So I'm just taking my time to find all my threads. It's not exactly lots of 2, but now you've got an option at this point to have them spaced out. So this one is me turning around and coming back. These ones I went through the fabric and then came back up. So you can see it gives you a completely different effect. Now you can pull that right down to sit on top of the other one, or you can leave a space. You can make it as random as well, ups and downs. And there's the usual, had breakfast, now we're going to go woofing at anything they deem needs a woof. So now I'll turn around again. So I personally prefer going down into the fabric and coming back up. It's my preference. I'm just trying not to catch fibres. Now you can imagine if this wasn't wool, this would be a lot easier to do. If it was, you know, threads, I'm making it difficult on myself because it's very easy to split the wool. But take your time. And it's not a big area too, so you can get quite a nice little detail there. I just thought because it's sort of out in the open there, I thought, well, this will be something different around this bottom corner. There's a few different threads I've spotted in these old embroidery books. Well, some of them aren't that old, they're recent ones, but it's like all the good old stitches are coming back into vogue, aren't they? They're popping up everywhere. Okay, can't believe September is nearly done. So we've got 5 weeks in this month, which has been great, just that extra time. Are we a third of the way through the project, being that there's 3 months in the season? I don't know. Doesn't matter, I guess, if it rolls over into the next period or you finish early. Does not matter. So now I need to go over. This is riveting viewing for you all. Okay. It took a little bit. It's an interesting effect, isn't it? I guess if you were embroidering baskets of flowers back in the day, this stitch would come out and be utilised. There we go. Right. And now we come back. Over, under, over, under. Once you get it going, it seems to keep catching those flowers. Really happy with my little bit of yellow. And all of the different things that happened in it. Concentrating. Just pulling the thread down. that one centre one is hard to get. It's like the threads aren't straight to start which is possible. I might have got a couple crooked ones there, so therefore it's hard to pick up. Nearly there. So you can really play with threads with this stitch. Colour combinations. It's a really good way to fill in big spaces too. It's a bit of a handy stitch to have. Plus it's quite interesting. It breaks the eye up a little bit when you've got, say, the detail of a petal or a leaf, and you just need to break it up a little bit so that I remember when I did it back on that Anne Brooks project, I thought, oh, what a handy little stitch. And I haven't really used it since because I haven't had a project where I'm filling in everything, well, at least 99% of it. It's all been pieced elements, not just working on one big piece. So it's a good stitch, this one. There we go. So nearly, I just fell off the table. I'm going to go under. There we go. And then when it's an odd shape like this, I guess you've got to decide how many more do you actually need. What I might do with this scenario is I'm going to go down to the back, and then I'm going to come up further along so it looks like the weaving has continued and is just tucked under the petal. Now I just got to get my rhythm back. Over, under. It's gone a little bit skew-if there, but still happy with the effect. I think this will be the last row. I don't think we need any more, because remember too, there's a petal there. Oh, I think I do need more. Just looked at it with my hand out of the way, and I think I can just sneak through. Okay, that's it done. All right, so it does leave still a little bit of space as I head back towards the cluster of flowers, but I don't think I'll do any more of that. I might come up with something a bit different, or go back to just scatter stitching, as in just scattering. See, there's a little bit of space through here. Scattering just, there we go. So it's added quite a different little technique to the back here. I could probably come up here a little bit, but we'll leave that for another day. Now, what I wanted to do next is I have stitched down this guy and that little fellow. My needle is still sitting here because, remember, I had these little pieces of textured elements here. I've decided that I'm going to add them in up the side here. So while I was stitching down these two flowers, I thought I'll just stitch those into position because I like them. And they don't go all the way to the top, but I'm sure I'll find something at some point to use to continue that line up the side. They will need to be trimmed because the edge is here and they're hanging out, but for now they're fine. So I'm just going to run a few invisible stitches through to hold them into position, and then I'll be on the lookout for some more random pieces to go down that side just to extend my piece. Now this piece was a bit smaller than the summer one that's coming next, so I know I've got this little bit of space where I can collage some random elements. Now I can see a little bit of the felt. I have big scissors. Let's get little scissors before we have a just a little trim just to get that out of there. I'll head into that pink area there and place down a few stitches. And then I want to do something with those flowers there, and then that will be pretty much everything stitched down in this corner leading up to the bird. The only thing left to do then is to sprinkle some beads through for some centers of flowers and just a little bit of extra pizzazz. So that's what I'll be focusing on this time, and that pretty much gets me the corner to the bird, the bottom edge completed. So now I'm on my way up the piece. Bit of a fray happening there. Like I like threads and bits hanging off, but not too much. Oh, I know what went onto the floor, my cotton. Oh no, it was a pink. Okay, so I'm just going to continue with my invisible stitch. Now I'm all twisted up. Oh, goodness me. I haven't had a coffee yet this morning and it really feels it. It's amazing how much that coffee stimulates my brain and just, I don't know, brings a little clarity to my thinking, wakes me up. I only have one a day, but I sort of don't feel right if I don't have at least that one, and it's always first thing in the morning. If I'm out and about and, you know, meeting up with friends or doing something a bit unusual, I might have a second one, you know, a special one as in from a cafe. But every morning, got to make my coffee, and I either sit with my iPad or phone and watch a video. It's usually Rachel from Roxy Creations. She has a video every day, so I can count on that and just watch that first. Don't always get through it because she starts her day of crafting, and then within probably 20 minutes, I'm like, right, I've got to get in there. You know, it's like when you surround yourself with people that are doing what you're doing, it just gets you going, gets you motivated. So she's my go-to girl. Even though she's 99% paper craft, it's still that creative element where I'm like, oh, look at that, I love that, I love that. Off, I'm gone. I'm off to my own project that's usually waiting for me on my desk. By then I've had a bit of coffee, and the girl is going. Now I will most likely, definitely, stitch around the bottom edge of this little stripy piece. I wonder if there's some more tickings with an overcast stitch just to make it look like a patch. That'll be a bit of fun. There's a needle in there or a pin, so get rid of him. Got some threads there that could probably go. But for now, at least, invisible stitch will hold it. And I can get rid of some of these pins. Hope that's not too shy of the corner. I need that piece to stay exactly where I placed it because the corner of the pink is right there. But I think it's because I'm sloping the piece, these guys down, that it's exposing the fact that there is not much crossover there. Come on. I'm probably putting the horse before the cart by putting this side piece on, but I don't know, when you see an idea and you like the idea and you're definitely going to do the idea, just stitch it in. And I guess the benefit is if you don't like it, in the end, you can unpick it. It just doesn't look right. It's really giving it a slow stitched element with all these little extra bits. So what do you guys have planned for your weekend? I presume this is on Friday. Most of the videos have been coming out on the Friday. We've got friends coming over for dinner. We are going to fire up the Barbie. I remember saying that once before in a video, and I got quite a lot of questions about what do you mean by fire up the barbecue? Turn it on. It's a bit of an Aussie slang probably thing. Turn it on. Okay, so I can neaten that up off camera, as in trim it back, and then using my crochet cotton, my go-to, so I'll cut that back. I'll then go over with an overcast stitch to stop any fraying. So now what I wanted to do next is have a little work on these. Now that pink thread that rolled under the desk, we need that. Here we go. Now the other thread that I think I might want is the cream wool. So we're going to lay down some of this first to start building up our little flower. Okay, let's start with one here in the open so that you can see it. So I'm just going to come up in the center and start stitching down over. I'm going to go this time over the edge of the little piece of fabric, and then I'll put another stitch next to it, that previous one, but then I'm going to change direction. So it's still in the center, and I'm going to come out to the edge of the petal, but in the center of the petal. There's one of my hairs. Oh, goodness me, we don't want that. Then we're going to come back up in the center and go out again, but slightly different direction. This helps, I guess, fill in your flower, but ensuring that the direction of your petal stitches is correct. Otherwise, if you try and do a lineal line straight next to each other every stitch, you'll come a cropper because you won't have pivoted around the petals. So it's like a stitch here, stitch there, stitch there, stitch there. Then come back and fill it in. So now that those main stitches are in position, you probably can't even see it. Let me bring it right up to the camera. Let it focus. Nope. I can't see. Okay, move along then. Oh boy. Now I can come up and down wherever I want. If I'm out at the perimeter, like I am here, I can come up here as well, just to save a little bit of thread. And just work your way backwards and forwards, dropping those stitches in between the gaps of the previous stitches until you fill it up. It's that simple. You get quite a nice center because you're coming up and down in the same spot and multiple stitches. You get quite a slope into the center of your flower. And it really looks quite dimensional, especially when you're using your wools. It might be not as much with the stranded cottons. Okay. I think I've just about got that petal covered. I might just do one more stitch very close to the last one, so I can still see a little bit of the pink. Okay, so what I might do is I need to probably work the rest of the flower, but I don't want to waste too much of this valuable time we have together. So I might pause the video and start stitching down all of this with the cream only. Then I'll come back and show you the next thing I do with some highlight touches and then the outline of it, the outline of the actual petals. So what's the time now? So nearly half an hour. All right, I'm going to stop the camera, finish the 3, and I'll be back. Won't be a moment. Okay, I'm back. Now I have stitched in my 3 little flowers just in the cream Appleton wool. Now I've selected a pink Appleton wool, which I've used already in many, many places, just to put in a few little, I guess, highlight strokes. It's getting quite thick in the center there, so it's not the easiest thing to pull a thread through, but the artist on the fabric had this little color of pink in the center of each of the petals. So I'm just going to keep my stitch fairly loose, because if I pull it too tight, it'll just disappear into the center of the cream that I've already put down. So I need to just be gentle and lay down just a hint of this little pink. It's all about creating, I guess, little details in your flowers that make them look more realistic than just a flat flower. So take your time. If you've finished doing the cream, for example, you know, laying down the outer edge and you're a little bit over it, just leave them and come back another day. Vary the sizes of your stitches just so that it keeps it interesting. That's it. So I've just got in there a few little strokes. Now I'll bring my thread up down here and leave that be for another time. So now I want to go around and outline it. So I wonder, should I pick something quite dark? I'm picking a colour I've used already, but it might be a bit too blending. I sort of feel like it could handle that colour red that I use a lot in my red work. So let's just have a look at something like that, just to give it a little bit of contrast. Otherwise, they might blend a little bit too much, and then you just, all that work, and you won't even notice them. So we might just use darker pearl cotton. This sort of picks up the cherry red a little bit. Won't hurt to drag that red down here, just to sort of make it feel like it's part of the whole package. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to outline the flowers just with little stitches. You'll be thinking this is a lot of work for a tiny little spot, but that's slow stitch, isn't it? You seem to put so much effort into, I nearly said pin cushion. Well, my fingers feel like a pin cushion. You put so much work into tiny little spaces, but it's so worth it. You can see how it gives you a real defined little flower. Now, I'm going to try and get my needle in under that doily to complete the little flower. And I'm going to come down the side of the petal and work my way towards the middle. Now, one of these flowers is tucked under another. So you sort of need to remember how the artist laid them onto the fabric, because I would highly recommend you follow their lead. So if a petal is tucked under another flower, you wouldn't be doing this edge, would you? You'd be letting the next flower come over this one. So I'm just going to come down into the center a little bit. If I feel like it needs more than that, I can take it right to the center. But at the moment, I'm just going to stop a little bit shy and just see how the flower comes together. So I've just scooted over here now. Oh, so many stitches there. It's quite firm. The piece just gets very dense. Now this petal is a new one, so it went just about to the center, and I've started coming out again to create the next petal. So it looks a little odd there, but that's because this petal is under this flower. So I'm just working my way around. If you find that you forget the shape of things underneath, don't be afraid to take a photo of the fabric before you start, and then you can refer to it, because once you start laying all your stitches in, you sort of lose maybe the detail that the artist had intended. So taking a photo is a good way just to have another little look and go, oh yes, there was a yellow stroke in there, or when I say stroke, I'm talking stroke of paint from the artist when he created the fabric. Of course, then that applies to us with a stroke of a stitch. So sort of I'm drifting my art words in with my embroidery words just to confuse you all. You see how we're getting a little pink outline to our flower. Now this one was the petal came out to meet. So it's quite dense with stitches, so you may need to be quite loose with your highlight stitches. Like I said before with the pale pink, they'll disappear into the previous threads. Now I'm just coming down to the bottom of it now, and I'm actually going to start working on the next flower because it sits over the top of the one we just did. Now the center, the artist here has used a soft lemon in amongst all of this, and I do like it. So I will probably follow suit with a yellow, probably French knot, I'm thinking, because that way it can be, you know, tall and handle itself in amongst all those stitches. There we go. Now that petal is disappearing under this, so I need to just stop, come over here and continue on. I need more thread. One more stitch is the most I'm going to get out of that. Okay, so I might stop the camera because it's going to take me at least another 5 minutes to finish this thread. Then I'll come back and show you the outlines done. See them there? And then we'll go to the next section. I better start writing down all the times because I think this will be a stop and start type of video. All right, see you in a moment. Okay, I'm back and we have 20 minutes left. So I have finished my little flowers, and I ended up just putting a couple little stitches in the center of them in the lemon, just a little hint of it. I didn't do a French knot, I just did like a couple little stitches. The other thing I did is while I was thinking about my beads, I just did a stitch around the outer edges of these two little pieces. They were starting to fray due to my hand being in the vicinity, so I thought I'd better secure that before there's nothing left, especially this grain sack fabric. It's a very coarse weave, so it doesn't take much before you're covered in bits of thread like that, and it's everywhere. So beads, beads, beads. I've got my mate Reginald out. We all know Reggie. He's my bead needle. He's got a bit of attitude. I better put some protective wear on because he tends to bite me a bit. So he's even put holes in my little silicone thimble. But anyway, we are ready. So this flower here came with this big pearl in it. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to follow the lead of that, and it's now, because I've finished this corner, I do have to do some stitching in here. The leaf will come down onto the velvet stripe here, and I have a tiny little space there yet to stitch in, and I have a space over here, but I'll do that off camera, and I'll follow the same principle of doing some basket weave. I think I really like how that's got quite chunky around that corner. But in the meantime, I'm going to see how this flower is sort of folding out a little bit there. And I can see down into the centre of it where the manufacturer has stitched it in here. To me, that's an opportunity to put some beads. So let's get Reginald started with a couple little stitches to secure him in there. And then it's just, I'm going to work through. Now, I just want to flick a few. I really like this little combination. I don't know where it's come from, whether there was a piece of jewellery that I broke down, but I do like that they're all pearly, pearl finish. And I'm just going to stitch a cluster of them into the centre of this piece. And I think it will set the mood for the rest of the beading through this zone, which I think is going to go quite pearly. I sometimes never really know until I get a few stitches down. Bring a little bit of this lavender in. And if it's looking a little dark, I'll then pop in something a bit sparkly. Let's have a little look in here. This little pack too caught my eye on day one. Let's get a bit of sparkle in there. No, I don't like that. It's very dead looking. Let's put some of these little pink ones in maybe. It's getting quite deep in the fold, so I might put two. I don't often do 2 beads at a time. I really love beading, and I find that I just rather take my time and build up layers of beads than rush it with. I still feel like that's a bit dark and moody in there, so let's look for, yeah, a bit of white. Okay, love it. That's it. Just to brighten it up a little bit. Now we'll just go quite narrow here with the next bead, so something pink. Narrow as in the fabric narrows is what I guess I'm trying to say. Let's put a couple of these little pink ones in. It's like just creating a cluster of little pearls, pearly looking. My thread has doubled, which is not, you know, a real problem, but it does mean you run out of thread quicker. Come on, Reg. No, it's locked in. I don't want to break my thread, so I'll carry on. I tend to put my big beads in and then I work back. Filling in the gaps with little finer beads. Just spread that out a little bit there so I can see deep into it. Put this little guy in there next, I think. And some little pink ones. So that's all I'm going to do, is I'm going to meander over all of these flowers, just beading them up, making them interesting. Now, if you're not into beads or you don't have a lot of beads, you do not need to add beads. Your piece will just look gorgeous as it is with just stitches. You may not like that effect. I do. I think the more bits and pieces I add to my work, the more interesting it gets too. So I'm a bit of a fan of doing a few little random stitches of beads. Like that flower just looks so yummy now. And I want this piece that when people look at it, I want them to stand for a moment and look. So I want to hide in amongst it. Lots of little details. Hence why I gave the project the 3 months. I just felt like I wouldn't rush it if I had time. So much of my projects designed for YouTube, I've got to keep them moving. I've got to keep it interesting for the YouTube world. Because if Mr. YouTube sees that I'm sitting on a project for a little while, he might think that no one's really interested and doesn't promote me. So I don't know if that's a fair statement or not, but I really felt like I needed to take my time with the piece anyway. And you just enjoy the process of making it. I want to experiment too with different techniques so that when I do other projects, I can go, yes, I love that. I'll try that again. So it's a great place to play. Like doing little flowers like that. If that's something that you find that you just love the look of, you'll include it again somewhere. It's nearly a sampler, isn't it? There's a soft pink, soft purple bead. Let's drop him in. Bring that purple through. Now some little beads. I've got seed beads in the mix there. I don't think it's a seed bead spot actually. Don't think I'll bother with. Got a little bit of a formula happening here, so I'll just stay with that and finish off. Yeah, that looks great. Like little jewels they are. A couple more little white ones. Oh, there might be a bead I can finish with. Maybe this white pearly one. Nice big one to finish that last spot. Yep, that's great. So I'll put an extra stitch through him, being he's my finishing bead. Now I'm tempted to actually see how those, I can see the seam here. I can see the seam of that flower where the manufacturer has put a little stitch there. So what I might do, and it looks like it could be a bit of a weak spot, is I'm just going to stitch in there first, just to make sure it doesn't come adrift. And then I might just pin that edge. Or is that attached? Oh yeah, they've put a little bit of glue there by the looks of it. I'll put a little stitch to their edge. That's not going to go anywhere, but now what I might do is continue my beading. So it's like oozing out of the flower. Put this little mauve one. So it doesn't mean that you have to stay within the parameters of your flower that you're embellishing. You can definitely go past the boundaries. Like I said, there's no rules. Well, there's never any rules when Reg is involved. He does what he wants. That's the needle for those new to my channel. The rest of you will be like, yes, Reg has history. He is often biting, causing grief. So I'm just sneaking around the outer edge of that little flower. Let's put another bead in there, a big guy. Could do with a smaller medium-sized pearly bead. Is there anything in there? Not really. Maybe I'll put this little purple guy in. And then I'll go with some really little ones, some whites and those pinks again. So I sort of look for varying sizes just to soften a cluster out. Oh, Reg, come on. Stay with the program, son. That's it. All right, where's the bee got to, Reg? What did you do with it? Or did you catch it down? No, you didn't catch it down because that's not your style to do what you're meant to do. Yeah, I like the little pink and white ones sprinkled in amongst it. These smaller, I think they're tiny. Wow, what size are they is what I'm trying to think. I think they're, I'm not going to say because I'm not 100% sure. I've taken them out of the packaging now, so just look for all sizes. If you see some beads you love, grab them. You'll soon find that you'll build, oh, my poor old silicone thimble here is starting to get holes. Let's turn it around so that we don't catch. So there you go. So we've got our little cluster of beads oozing out of my little flower. Let's just close that up. Now, what I want to do in the last few minutes of this riveting, do I do another big one? No, just a little pink one. No, a little white one. I'm overthinking it now. I want to go to that flower and have a look at what we can do there. I need a few more stitches around that lace, that crocheted little doily, because I'm catching it with thread. Now, I soon will be away from this corner anyway, but I might just scoot Reg over there and just put a few more invisible stitches in to hold all of these little edges down, because if they're kicking up now with me, they'll kick up some more. So I'll leave my thread and I'm going to rework right around that little motif there and finish that off with that thread. So let's have a look. New piece of cotton. Now there are beading threads out there on the market. I recently had a play with, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Nemo, Nano. Sounds like the fish out of that fish movie. What was the name of it? Oh, he was a bit of a cheeky fish in it. Nemo. I don't know. I can't think of the name of it. Doesn't matter. Moving along. You can get tubes of Nemo thread in different colours. Now, I discovered that when I did the Jennifer Colston stitching days with her. I did 4 classes with her back a couple months ago. And the girls all had Nemo thread for when they were working with beads. So I then went hunting for it because I don't mind it. It's silk thread. So I went hunting for it and boy, it's expensive. Then I noticed that coming up around it, now I'm not 100% sure if it's the same product, but fly fishing. It looks like the people that create fly fishing, you know, the pretty little things that they make. It's a real art. I keep catching that French knot. They use this silk thread to create their little, well, they use it to stitch on little feathers and bits and pieces to make it look like a little insect skipping through the water. So you can actually, I think, buy it more on a reel from a fishing tackle shop, and it'd be more cost effective than buying the tiny itty bitty rolls of it, because technically you should have a few different colours. So if you're using black beads, you can have a black or a pink or a red. So I thought that was interesting. Now, I'm not 100% sure it's the same product, so please don't quote me. But gee, it's coincidental that when you type in Nemo thread and you see all these fabric shops pop up, that you also see fishing shops. So I thought that was quite interesting. So I'm just stitching 3 big beads in the center of that, but I feel like it needs to be softened. So what I might do now is, I know that that bead has a little sister somewhere. Maybe I use some gold. Put a bit of sparkle in. Yeah, so I'm waiting till I'm passing a fishing shop next, BCF, and I'm going to just have a little look at these rolls of it, because you can get thousands of meters for not much money versus tiny little bits of it for a lot of money. So that's my next investigation. Having said that, we are stitching beads onto pieces that are not being worn, so maybe the bridal industry would invest in that type of thread, silk thread. It'd be quite durable, especially if you're beading a bodice of a wedding dress and the arm of the bride is brushing up against those beads all day, all night in her dress. So I can see the theory in upgrading your threads to potentially a silk thread. Be a lot more stronger. But I will say, my grandmother just used a good cotton polyester mix. This one's a 100% polyester. She just used a cotton that she would use in her sewing machine, but her tip was to put the needle through every bead twice. So I don't think I'm going to invest in Nemo thread. It's just another thing that we have to buy when we don't probably need to because we're not making dresses. So that's my theory on Nemo thread. You may disagree. You may do a lot of beading and it's just part of your stash and that's what you use. That's fine. But for me, this will do the trick. This is a mix of these little champagne beads and there's little tubes in there plus the seeds. So I've slowly been using all the seeds. So I've got to sort of search a little bit to find the next seed because they must be just about gone. Oh, Reginald, seriously? Well, I think I'm coming up to the hour. I've just glanced up to the TV and I believe we're probably 2 or 3 minutes over anyway. So I might just finish this little cluster. I'll pop a couple more beads in and then I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you all have a great day. I'm thinking too, I might do some stitching between these petals in cream just to give another little bit of interest to it so it's not so just stuck on look. Just scooting around the outside of the 3 with the we're really scratching there to find some beads. So it's made quite an interesting centre to my flower. 2 different sizes, one pearly, one shiny bead. Come on, Reg, just give me a couple more stitches, son. Another one through here would be good. Just, I'm going to have to change my silicone. Oh, Reg, see, he knows that I want him just to behave. Okay, let's get one more bead, Reg, one more. And then we've finished that little flower. All right, shut the beads down. Well, I hope everyone has a lovely day. I can't believe we're at the end or nearing the end of September. Where did that month go? We are 5 videos in, a third of the way. Unbelievable. All right, that's it, Reg. You can knot that off. And then I'll use Reg. Oh, I might not. I might retire Reg for a moment, pick up a normal needle, and I'll grab that thread that I left before and stitch down that motif. I just want to finish that with that one. Okay, so thank you for joining me. Once again, more detail. There's so much more we can do through here alone. Love the pearls coming in. Yeah, it's really starting to come together. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video, which is October. Oh, my goodness. All right, guys, look after yourselves and bye for now. Bye. Hello, everyone. I'm back. I'm just sitting here continuing to stitch. So I thought I'd just quickly show you what I'm doing to this man-made little flower here. He was very pink and I just want to tone him down a little bit. So I picked up the cream, my standard crochet cotton cream, and I'm just laying down through his petals and the center. Now it becomes unthreaded, of course. Just can't stitch and talk at the same time. Now when I bring it up to the camera, so I've put 3 stitches into each petal, and now I'm in the center just doing a rough satin stitch through. So I've still got the hint of the pink, but I've pushed the pink into the background a little bit. It's become a little bit more blended with my piece. So I thought I'll just quickly come back and show you that, because I might forget by the time the next video comes. And I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. I mentioned it a second ago when I was putting those beads in the center. I'll go through and maybe outline the petals. I'm going to go so over time now, but that's all right. If you're hanging around stitching with me, you're probably finding it hard to put your needle down too. So let me just thread this up. So what I'm thinking is I'll come up between the dense satin stitch that their sewing machines have done and just put in some little cream stitches, ever so subtle, but I think it'll help push it back a little bit into the background, the pink. I remember at the time when I put this little piece on, I wasn't a great fan, and I ended up turning him over because it's a hand-dyed element. It was a little bit darker and less bright on this side. So I actually, you know, turned him. Oh, don't catch that French knot. French knot on top of the bead is always in my way. So I'm actually doing a bit of a split back stitch so that my stitches are nice and smooth and tight. So that's where you pierce into the stitch you just laid down to make sure you get a nice linked stitch. If you just do a running stitch, you got that gap all the time where you can actually see where your needle has gone in and out. And that might suit what you're doing, but in my case, I want the stitch to be a little bit bolder, stronger. So I'm making sure that when the needle goes back down, it's piercing the stitch before and splitting it. And that's going to give me quite a nice, gosh, you guys can barely see this. You're just going to have to trust me, it's there, I think. I'll just finish this little petal and I'll bring it right up to the camera. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it sitting in there? So I'm just splitting and laying it in there. I can see like a shadow between all of these petals because I can see through. It's very lacy. So I'm filling that in. And I think that's going to help soften this. Plus it's just putting a lovely little detail into the flower. Like I've said a million times, it's all about the detail with this piece. There we go. Split it again. Yeah, I love it. That's better. So now I can come up at the next petal and lay down my stitch. So if you haven't added lace yet to your piece, go and find yourself some flowery lace, cut out some of those little elements and revisit all of the areas where you have already been and see if you can lay in just the odd little flower and then have a stitch over that lace and see where you can highlight it This video is going to end up going for 2 hours the way I'm going. But that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's only the diehards that are left now. Most have probably gone off and started their day. The rest of you are sitting and stitching, or you're cleaning and you have me yabbering in your ear. Hello to those putting in a stellar effort in the cleaning department today. That is so not me. I had a big day cleaning yesterday, so I'm hoping to have a big day stitching. And the way this is going, I could lose hours here. Oh my goodness. I've nearly finished the second petal. Yeah, I love it. That's so pretty. I have quite a lot of this lace that's dyed. I picked it up at a scrapbooking shop ages ago, and I haven't really pulled it out in my slow stitching because some of it's a little bit bright, but this is good because this shows me that I could probably dig it out and use a bit of it because I can easily stitch over it. Let me bring that right up to the camera. Can you see my little cream? We've done 2. Yeah, really pretty. Gets rid of that dark shadow line from the lace in between the petals, so that'll work out really well. This little guy looks a lot more interesting now with those little stitches. So coming together, coming together. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I promise you, I am gone this time. I will see you all in the next video. Bye again. Bye.